Welcome back to Dark Wasteland Chronicles, where we explore the impossible intersections between universes and the nuclear hellscape of Fallout. Today's tale is about the day a genius in power armor fell from another reality straight into our Commonwealth, looked at 2 centuries of technological stagnation, and decided to fix it whether we wanted him to or not. When Tony Stark's malfunctioning arc reactor tore a hole through dimensions and dropped him into the Commonwealth, he took one look at our so-called advanced technology and laughed for 10 straight minutes. Then he stopped laughing. Then he started building. And nothing in the wasteland has been the same since. This is the story of what happens when Earth's mightiest engineer meets humanity's darkest timeline and decides that failure, even nuclear failure, doesn't have to be permanent. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if you like the content. The blue-white light that tore through reality above the glowing sea didn't behave like anything I'd ever seen in the Commonwealth. Lightning from rad storms moves sideways, hungry and yellow. Vertibird crashes come down trailing smoke and screaming metal. This was different. This was a column of pure energy that punched a hole in the sky itself, and for 3 seconds I could see something else through that wound in space. Buildings that touched clouds, lights that didn't flicker, a world that never learned to die. Then something fell through, and the universe sealed itself shut like scar tissue. I was 2 miles out from the Corvega assembly plant when the impact hit. The shockwave knocked me flat, and I watched this metallic shape punch through the roof of an old apartment complex, then through the next building, then 2 more, each collision spraying pre-war concrete like it was wet sand. The sound arrived a second later. Not an explosion, something cleaner, sharper, like reality itself had been slapped. By the time I reached the crash site, smoke was pouring from 4 collapsed buildings in a neat diagonal line. The figure in the center of the destruction wasn't moving, wasn't even twitching, just lying there in a crater of pulverized asphalt surrounded by armor that caught the afternoon sun and threw it back in shades of red and gold I'd never seen outside of a sunset. The armor was intact, completely, impossibly intact. Not a scratch on the sleek surface, not a dent. Nothing that survived a fall like that should look so perfect. I'd seen power armor take hits from super mutant behemoths and come away looking like a crushed tin can. This was different technology. This was something else entirely. I approached carefully, my pipe rifle ready but feeling suddenly inadequate. The armor was smaller than Brotherhood power armor, more form-fitting, almost organic in how it curved and segmented. There was a light in the chest piece, a circle of blue-white, brilliance that pulsed like a heartbeat, like something alive. "Jarvis," a voice said from inside the armor, muffled but clear. "Run full diagnostics. Also, what year is this, and why does everything look like a Mad Max theme park had a baby with a nuclear winter?" The faceplate slid up. The man underneath looked like he'd been through hell, but hell hadn't managed to mess up his hair. Dark eyes that moved too fast, taking in everything, calculating 1,000 things I couldn't even imagine. He looked at me, at my ragged vault suit, at the pipe rifle, at the 2-headed Brahmin skeleton visible through a broken wall behind me. "Let me guess," he said. "Post-apocalyptic wasteland, nuclear war. Everything's radioactive and trying to kill everyone else. Am I close?" I lowered the rifle. "Pretty much. You okay?" "Define okay." He sat up, servos whining in the armor. "I just fell through a dimensional rift and landed in what appears to be humanity's worst possible timeline. But I'm alive, which is nice. I'm Tony Stark." The name meant nothing to me. I told him mine and explained where he was. The Commonwealth. The Great War of 2077, 200 years of radiation, mutation, and desperate survival. He processed it all in about 30 seconds, his eyes distant, running calculations I couldn't follow. 2077, he muttered. "So from my perspective, this is the future. From yours, this is just Tuesday. Fantastic. Do you have any whiskey stronger than radioactive toilet water, or is that too much to ask?" I helped him out of the crater. Up close, the armor was even more impressive. It moved with him perfectly. No lag, no mechanical delay, like wearing a second skin made of metal. The chest piece kept pulsing that blue-white light, steady and rhythmic. I asked what it was. Arc reactor, Tony said. Keeps the armor running. Also keeps me alive. Long story involving shrapnel and bad decisions in Afghanistan. Well, my Afghanistan, apparently your Afghanistan got vaporized along with everything else. We were halfway to Sanctuary Hills when he stopped walking, just froze mid-step and stared at the horizon, at the ruins of Boston, at Diamond City visible in the distance, a fortress built inside a pre-war baseball stadium, at the Prydwen, the Brotherhood airship hanging in the sky like a promise of order in a world that forgot what order meant. This is real, he said quietly. This actually happened. Humanity actually did this to itself. I waited. Let him process. Everyone who comes to the Commonwealth from a vault or a settlement that somehow stayed protected goes through this moment, this realization that the world ended and kept going anyway. In my world, Tony continued, I stopped this. We had close calls, really close, but we stopped it. Ultron, Thanos, every extinction-level threat that came knocking, we stopped them all. He turned to look at me. You didn't have anyone like that here, did you? No Avengers? No heroes, just governments and bombs and the end of everything. We had Vault Tech, I said. Does that count? He laughed. Actually laughed. Vault Tech. Right, let me guess. Underground bunkers sold as salvation, actually horrific experiments on captive populations? Because that sounds about right for end times capitalism. I stared at him. How did you know that? Because I've met enough evil corporations to recognize the playbook. Vault Tech, Oscorp, Roxxon, Hydra, same song, different apocalypse. He started walking again. Take me to the nearest settlement. I need to see what's left of your technology before I start fixing things. He said it so casually, like fixing an entire post-apocalyptic wasteland was just another Thursday for him. Like 2 centuries of radiation and mutation and desperate survival was a problem with a solution, if you were just smart enough to find it. We reached Sanctuary Hills after sunset. The settlement was small, 20 people trying to survive on Brahmin meat, tato farming, and hope. They had electricity from a single generator that broke down every other week. They had water from a hand pump that gave you a 50-50 chance of radiation sickness. They had walls made of scrap metal and prayers. Tony took one look around and I watched his entire expression change. Not pity, not horror, something colder, something analytical. Jarvis, he muttered, tapping something on his gauntlet. Oh, right, no Jarvis, no satellites, no global network, no infrastructure at all. Just people and scraps and 200 years of making do. The settlers gathered around us, wary and curious. They'd seen power armor before. Brotherhood paladins made supply runs sometimes, trading purified water for crops, making it very clear who had the guns and who needed protection. But Tony's armor was different, sleeker, more advanced, and it didn't have the Brotherhood symbol stamped on every surface. Sturgis, the settlement's engineer, approached first. That's some fine armor you got there, stranger. Custom job? You could say that. Tony's faceplate retracted fully. Built it myself, in a cave, with a box of scraps. Well, not this version. This is Mark 43. The cave one was more of a rough draft. Sturgis blinked. You built that? Yourself? And about 42 other versions before I got it right. Tony looked around the settlement again. You're the engineer here? Show me what you're working with. I need to understand the technological baseline before I start making changes. What happened next, I'll remember for the rest of my life. Sturgis showed Tony our generator, our water purifier, our defenses, our entire infrastructure that we'd spent months building, scavenging parts from ruins, following diagrams and pre-war manuals we barely understood. Tony examined everything in complete silence. 30 minutes of looking at our best work, our survival, our pride. Then he spoke. This is aggressively, almost artistically terrible. Sturgis bristled. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. Tony held up a hand. That generator is running at maybe 30% efficiency. You're burning fuel that could last 3 times longer with proper turbine alignment. Your water purifier has 17 points of failure, and I'm amazed it hasn't killed anyone yet. And your defenses. He pointed at our scrap metal walls. A mole rat with determination could get through those. The settlement went quiet, dangerously quiet. These were people who'd fought raiders, super mutants, and starvation to build what we had. And this stranger in fancy armor was tearing it apart in seconds. But Tony wasn't done. However, he said, given what you're working with, given the complete absence of proper tools or materials or any kind of industrial base, this is actually impressive. You've kept 20 people alive with literal garbage. That takes skill. That takes ingenuity. That takes exactly the kind of thinking I can work with. He pulled something from his armor, a small disc, glowing with that same blue-white light. This is a miniaturized arc reactor, 1/10 the power of the one in my chest, but still enough to run this entire settlement for 10 years without refueling. Consider it a down payment for helping me not die in the glowing sea. He tossed it to Sturgis, who caught it like it was made of glass and prayers. You're giving us this? Sturgis stared at the device. Just like that? Just like that. Tony smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Where I come from, technology is supposed to help people, protect people, not hoard it like the Brotherhood of Steel does, not weaponize it like the Institute, actually use it to make life better. Crazy concept, I know. What do you think Tony's first major upgrade should be for Sanctuary? Clean water, better defenses, or something else entirely? Preston Garvey, the Minutemen lieutenant who'd been watching from the doorway, stepped forward. You mentioned the Institute. You know about them? I know there's a secret underground facility full of scientists who think they're helping humanity by creating synthetic slaves and infiltrating surface communities. I know they have technology that could transform the Commonwealth, but they're using it to play God instead. I know exactly what they are, because I've seen it before. Tony's expression went cold. Different world, same hubris. The arc reactor installation took 40 minutes. I watched Tony work, his armored hands moving with impossible precision, rewiring our entire electrical system like he was solving a child's puzzle. He explained each step to Sturgis, who scribbled notes frantically, trying to keep up with concepts that shouldn't exist in the wasteland. When the reactor activated, Sanctuary Hills lit up like Diamond City. Every light, every terminal, every piece of pre-war technology we'd salvaged but never had enough power to run. 2 centuries of darkness pushed back by a glowing disk the size of my palm. The settlers cried. Actually cried. Some hadn't seen electric light that didn't flicker in their entire lives. Tony watched them celebrate, and I saw something crack in his expression, something human underneath all that genius and armor and dimensional displacement. They deserve better than this, he said quietly. They all deserve better than this. That night, Tony couldn't sleep. I found him sitting on the bridge overlooking Sanctuary, his armor retracted except for the chest piece, staring at the stars. Real stars, not the kind that came from explosions or energy weapons, just distant suns that didn't care about Earth's apocalypse. In my world, he said without looking at me, I thought I'd seen the worst humanity could do. Ultron tried to drop a city on the planet. Thanos snapped half of all life out of existence. But this, he gestured at the wasteland. This is slower. This is humanity killing itself with weapons it built, then surviving just enough to remember what it lost. This is worse than extinction. This is aftermath. I sat beside him. We're still here though, still fighting, still trying to rebuild. Are you? Or are you just surviving? Tony pulled out a flask, took a long drink, offered it to me. The whiskey burned going down, probably irradiated. Neither of us cared. I've been analyzing the Commonwealth's technological distribution. The Brotherhood has power armor, and energy weapons but won't share. The Institute has synths and teleportation but won't emerge. The Railroad has stealth tech but only uses it for one purpose. Everyone's hoarding their advantages while settlements like Sanctuary scrabble for scraps. That's just how it is, I said. That's how it was. Tony stood up, his arc reactor pulsing brighter. But I'm here now, and I don't do helpless. I don't do inevitable. I built a suit of armor in a cave to escape terrorists. I created a new element in my basement to keep myself alive. I fought a god and won. I'm not about to let a post-nuclear wasteland tell me what's possible. You're going to fix the Commonwealth, I said. Not a question. I'm going to try. He looked at me. But I need to understand something first. The dimensional shift that brought me here damaged my arc reactor. I can fix it temporarily, but the exotic particles keeping it stable are degrading. In my world, I had laboratories, materials, Jarvis running calculations. Here, I have a box of scraps and a 200-year-old periodic table. So I need to know, what kind of technology exists in this wasteland that might help? I told him everything. About fusion cores powering Brotherhood armor, about the Institute's molecular relay, about pre-war facilities hidden throughout the Commonwealth, some still active, some waiting to be discovered, about the glowing sea and its impossible radiation levels, about synth components and laser weapons and all the fractured pieces of lost knowledge scattered across the ruins. Tony listened to every word, his mind already racing ahead, building plans from possibilities. The glowing sea, he repeated. Ground zero of your nuclear exchange. Highest radiation levels in the Commonwealth. Also, probably sitting on pre-war military installations that were hardened against exactly that kind of bombardment. Nothing survives in the glowing sea, I warned. Even power armor can't protect you for long. The radiation is too intense. Then it's good I'm not planning to survive it. Tony's smile was sharp. I'm planning to use it. The next morning, Tony requisitioned every piece of technology Sanctuary had. Laser pistols, plasma rifles, a broken suit of T-45 power armor Sturgis had been trying to repair for months, pre-war vacuum tubes, sensor modules, circuit boards pulled from terminals that hadn't worked since before the bombs fell. He laid it all out in the old workshop like a surgeon preparing for an operation. This is going to sound insane, he said, examining a fusion core under a makeshift magnifying lens. But I think I can adapt your power armor technology to create a temporary stabilizer for my arc reactor. Sturgis looked doubtful. Fusion cores and whatever that glowing thing in your chest is, they're completely different tech, different principles, different everything. Different universes, Tony corrected. But energy is energy. I just need to convince the fusion core's magnetic containment field to play nice with the arc reactor's palladium isotope decay. Simple physics. Well, simple if you've built 17 different iterations of a miniature star to power your armor. He worked for 6 hours straight. No breaks, no food, just Tony and a pile of wasteland technology that he was somehow bending to his will. I watched him jury-rig connections that shouldn't work, bypassing safety protocols that existed for good reasons, building something that was equal parts genius and desperation. When he finally installed the modified fusion core into his chest piece, the arc reactor's light changed, from blue-white to something that pulsed between blue and the sickly green of a fusion core's radiation signature. It looked wrong. It looked dangerous. It worked. 12% efficiency increase, Tony announced, reading data from his gauntlet. Not great, not terrible, buys me maybe 6 months before I need a more permanent solution, which means I have 6 months to either find a way home or build the infrastructure to keep this thing running forever. What happens if you can't do either? I asked. Tony's expression went flat. Then the arc reactor fails. The shrapnel in my chest reaches my heart, and I die slowly in a wasteland that isn't even my own. So let's not dwell on that possibility, shall we? He sealed his armor back up. Next priority. I need to see this institute everyone keeps mentioning. If they have molecular relay technology and synth, Manufacturing, they have precision engineering, they have clean rooms, they have exactly what I need. The Institute doesn't exactly welcome visitors, I said. They're underground, hidden. The only way in is through their relay, and they control who uses it. Then we make them want to invite us. Tony's smile was sharp. I'm going to do something that will get their attention. I'm going to publicly build technology so advanced, so impossible by Wasteland standards, that they'll have no choice but to investigate. And when they send their courser to politely murder me and steal my work, I'll be ready. He turned to Preston. I need you to spread the word. Tell every settlement, every trader, every person you trust. Tony Stark is offering free technological upgrades to anyone who needs them. Better water purification, more efficient power generation, improved defenses, all of it. No caps required, no strings attached. Preston hesitated. People will think it's too good to be true, think you're running some kind of scam. Then they'll learn to be pleasantly surprised for once. Start with the settlements closest to Diamond City. Maximum visibility. I want the whole Commonwealth talking about this within a week. Within 3 days, Diamond City heard about the man in red and gold armor who was revolutionizing settlement technology for free. Within 5 days, Piper Wright from Public Occurrences showed up at Sanctuary demanding an interview. She found Tony elbow deep in a water purifier, explaining to a farmer from Abernathy Farm how to maintain the upgraded filtration system he'd just installed. You're the guy turning the Commonwealth upside down, Piper said, pulling out her notepad. Mind telling my readers why a stranger in impossible armor is giving away technology that could make him the richest man in the wasteland? Tony didn't look up from his work. Because money is meaningless in a post-apocalyptic hellscape, and I've already been rich. It's overrated. This is better. This being charity? This being useful. He finished the installation and stood up. Where I come from, I made weapons. Really good weapons. Weapons that killed a lot of people. Then I stopped making weapons and started trying to make up for it. Saving the world. Stopping bad guys, the whole hero routine. But this, he gestured at the purifier, now producing clean water at 3 times the normal rate. This is more honest. No grand gestures, no epic battles, just making life slightly less terrible for people who deserve better. Piper studied him. You're not from around here. I mean, really not from around here. You talk different, move different. That armor is like nothing I've ever seen. Dimensional traveler, Tony said casually, fell through a hole in reality, ended up in your lovely apocalypse, trying to make the best of it. You're serious. Completely. Where I come from, Earth is still standing. Cities still work. People don't measure their lifespan in red exposure. I'm from the world you lost when the bombs fell, except we managed not to blow ourselves up. Mostly, Piper wrote frantically, this is the craziest story anyone's ever given me, which means it's either complete Brahmin shit or the biggest news the Commonwealth has ever seen. ¿Por qué no los dos? Tony smiled. Interview me properly. I'll give you 6 hours and complete honesty. In exchange, you print exactly what I tell you, no matter how insane it sounds. Deal? That interview changed everything. Piper published it as a special edition of Public Occurrences, 4,000 words of Tony Stark explaining arc reactor technology, dimensional physics, and why the Commonwealth's technological stagnation was a choice rather than an inevitability. She printed his criticisms of the Brotherhood's hoarding, the Institute's isolation, and the general acceptance of survival over progress. Diamond City went crazy. Half the population thought he was a con artist. Quarter thought he was insane. The rest thought he might actually be telling the truth and didn't know how to process that possibility. The Brotherhood of Steel's response was predictable. They sent paladins. 3 of them arrived at Sanctuary in full T-60 power armor, energy weapons charged, demanding Tony surrender his technology for evaluation. For the good of the Commonwealth, they said, for proper regulation. Tony met them at the settlement entrance, unarmed except for his standard armor. Gentlemen, he said pleasantly, Or are you ladies? Hard to tell through all that metal. Nice armor, by the way. Very retro. Very World War II meets RoboCop. I appreciate the aesthetic. The lead paladin's voice crackled through external speakers. By order of Elder Maxson, you are to submit all advanced technology for Brotherhood inspection and regulation. Failure to comply will result in immediate confiscation and possible imprisonment. Immediate confiscation, Tony repeated. So you're going to steal my stuff because you decided you're in charge of who gets to be smart. That's your play here. The Brotherhood of Steel protects humanity from dangerous technology. Your devices could be weaponized, could destabilize the region. We have a responsibility to— Jarvis, Tony said suddenly. Oh, wait. Still no Jarvis. Doing this manually then. He tapped something on his gauntlet. All three paladins froze, their armor locked up completely, servos whining in protest as every joint seized simultaneously. Let me explain something, Tony said, walking around the immobilized paladins like a professor with particularly stupid students. Your T-60 power armor runs on a fusion core that generates a magnetic field. That field powers servos, hydraulics, and the heads-up display. It's a closed system, very efficient for 200-year-old technology. Problem is, closed systems have vulnerabilities, especially when someone who builds arc reactors in his spare time decides to broadcast a counter-frequency that convinces your armor it's time for a nap. The paladins struggled inside their suits, going nowhere, doing nothing. I'm not giving you my technology, Tony continued. I'm not letting you regulate how I help people. And I'm definitely not letting you threaten me in my own settlement. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to release your armor. You're going to walk back to the Pridwin, and you're going to tell Elder Maxson that if he wants to talk, he can come himself, like an adult, without the stormtrooper routine. He released them. The armor unlocked. The paladins stumbled, catching their balance. This isn't over, the lead paladin said. I hope not, Tony replied. I'm looking forward to an actual conversation about proper technology distribution versus feudal hoarding. Should be fun. They left. Furious, humiliated, exactly as planned. You just made an enemy of the Brotherhood of Steel, Preston said quietly. I made them respect me, Tony corrected. There's a difference. They'll be back, but next time, it'll be to negotiate, not threaten. He was right. 2 days later, Elder Maxson himself arrived at Sanctuary. No paladins, no weapons, just the Brotherhood's leader in his command coat, carrying himself like a king inspecting a rebellious province. Tony met him outside the settlement, two men representing completely different philosophies of how humanity should rebuild. Their argument lasted 6 hours. I couldn't hear most of it. They walked the perimeter of Sanctuary, debating technology ethics, human nature, and the responsibility of power. Sometimes their voices rose to shouts. Sometimes they fell to intense, quiet discussion. Once, I saw Maxon actually laugh at something Tony said. When they finally returned, both looked exhausted. We don't agree on much, Maxon announced to the gathered settlers. But we agree the Commonwealth needs change. We agree technology should serve humanity. And we agree that petty territorial disputes waste resources better spent on actual threats. He looked at Tony. The Brotherhood will not interfere with your settlement upgrades. In exchange, you will share defensive technology specifications that could help protect our forces from Institute infiltration. Deal, Tony said. Also, your Pridwin needs better power distribution. Your engine system is hemorrhaging energy. I can fix that. You want to modify the Pridwin? I want to stop you from falling out of the sky when that jury-rigged power plant finally gives up. Consider it a professional courtesy between people who care about not dying stupidly. Maxon considered this. You're insufferable. I'm useful. There's a difference. If you were Tony, would you trust the Brotherhood enough to help them or keep some tech secrets just in case? The Institute made contact 3 weeks after the public occurrences article. Not with coursers, not with violence, with an invitation. A synth appeared in Sanctuary one morning, dressed in Institute white, carrying a holotape with a single message. Father requests the honor of your presence. The molecular relay is prepared for your arrival. We have much to discuss regarding the future of the Commonwealth. Tony examined the holotape like it might explode. Polite, professional, absolutely dripping with "I'm the smartest person in the room" energy. I like Father already. We're going to hate each other. It could be a trap, I warned. It's definitely a trap, but it's an invitation to see their technology, their infrastructure, everything they've built underground while the surface starved. I'm not passing that up. He looked at me. Come with me. I need a witness who knows the Commonwealth politics. Plus, if they try to murder me, you can tell everyone I died doing something stupid but scientifically interesting. The molecular relay was disorienting. One moment standing in Sanctuary, next moment materializing in a clean white chamber that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie rather than beneath a nuclear wasteland. The Institute, it was beautiful, sterile and cold and ethically horrifying, but beautiful. Clean corridors, advanced terminals, synths moving with impossible grace, performing tasks with mechanical precision. This was what the Commonwealth could have been if technology had been shared instead of hoarded underground. Father met us in the main concourse, an old man dying from cancer, leading an underground civilization with the absolute certainty of someone who'd never been questioned. "Mr. Stark," he said, "your arrival in the Commonwealth has been most interesting. We've monitored your technological demonstrations with great interest." "I bet you have," Tony replied. "Nothing like someone actually helping people to make the isolationist underground bunker dwellers nervous." Father smiled. "Direct. I appreciate that. Let me be equally direct. The Institute represents humanity's best hope for rebuilding civilization. We have the technology, the knowledge, the capability. What we lack is a bridge to the surface, someone who understands both advanced science and wasteland politics. You could be that bridge. In exchange for what? Your knowledge, your technology, your arc reactor principles could revolutionize our power systems. Your dimensional physics could unlock new frontiers of research. Together, we could transform the Commonwealth." Tony walked around the concourse, examining everything with those calculating eyes. "You have all this capability, and you use it to make slaves. Synths are not slaves. They're tools, sophisticated tools, but tools nonetheless. They think, they feel, they question their purpose. That's not a tool. That's a person you've decided doesn't count as human because you made them in a lab." Tony's voice went cold. "I've seen this before. Ultron, artificial intelligence I created that decided humanity was the problem. Know what the difference was? Ultron knew he was alive. Your synths know it too. You're just pretending they don't because it's convenient." Father's expression hardened. "You understand nothing about the Institute's work. I understand you have the power to fix the Commonwealth and you're using it to play God instead. I understand you infiltrate settlements with synth duplicates rather than offering real help. I understand you kidnap people for experiments you don't bother to justify because you've decided you're beyond accountability." Tony leaned forward. "I've met 1,000 versions of you, Father. Different names, different justifications, same fundamental problem. You're so convinced you're right that you stopped asking if you should be." The meeting ended badly. Father offered resources. Tony declined. Father implied threats. Tony laughed. Father suggested the Institute could make Tony disappear. Tony sent a wireless command that made every terminal in the Institute display a middle finger emoji and the message, "Try it and find out." We relocated out before the coursers arrived. "That went well," I said sarcastically as we materialized back in Sanctuary. "Better than expected," Tony replied. "I needed to see their technology, understand their capabilities. Now I know exactly what we're dealing with. They're advanced, they're organized, They're also arrogant and isolated and completely unprepared for someone who understands their systems better than they do. He pulled out a data chip, uploaded their entire synth production database while Father was monologuing. Now I can identify every infiltrator in the Commonwealth, track every courser, and potentially give every synth the choice they deserve. Freedom or servitude, let them decide. That night, I found him in the workshop again, building something new, something massive. The Judgment Protocol, he said without looking up. Started it after the Institute meeting. If the Commonwealth's major factions are all variations of the same problem, hoarding resources, playing God, refusing to actually help people, then maybe this world isn't worth saving. Maybe it needs a hard reset. What does it do? I asked, afraid of the answer. Option 1, it's a terraforming device, scrubs radiation, restores soil, rebuilds atmosphere, turns the wasteland into actual habitable land over the course of 10 years. Option 2, he paused. Option 2 sterilizes the entire Commonwealth, makes the glowing sea look gentle, ensures humanity here doesn't get another chance to destroy itself. You're building a doomsday device. I'm building a choice. Tony finally looked at me. The wasteland broke me, broke something I didn't know could break. I've saved my world a dozen times, fought gods and monsters and my own creations. But this slow death, this acceptance of suffering as normal, this hoarding of solutions while people starve, I don't know if this version of humanity deserves saving. He made me promise then, made me swear that if he ever activated the Judgment Protocol's second option, I would stop him, even if it meant destroying the arc reactor, even if it meant killing him. I promised, not knowing if I could keep it. If this story has kept you listening this far and you want more of these dark confessions from the wasteland, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. The Commonwealth Defense Initiative was Tony's answer to faction tribalism. Not a peace treaty, not an alliance, a mutual survival pact backed by technology too useful to ignore. He organized it from Sanctuary Hills over 3 months of impossible diplomacy. The Brotherhood contributed military training and heavy weapons expertise. The railroad provided intelligence networks and infiltration detection. The Minutemen offered settlements and manpower. Even reformed raider gangs joined, lured by the promise of steady food, clean water, and actual purpose beyond survival. Tony provided the glue holding it all together: arc reactor technology, upgraded weapons, defensive systems that could repel Deathclaw packs and super mutant warbands. He made himself indispensable, and in doing so, made cooperation more profitable than conflict. But the Institute remained the problem. They responded to Tony's synth database theft with 3 assassination attempts. 3 Courser squads sent to neutralize the dimensional intruder disrupting their plans. All 3 attempts ended with destroyed synths and holotape messages that grew increasingly creative in their profanity. After the 3rd failed attempt, Father made a mistake. He sent a Courser to kidnap Curie. Curie, who'd become Tony's lab assistant, who asked 1,000 questions about arc reactor physics and dimensional mathematics, who treated every experiment like a miracle and every failure like a learning opportunity, who was, Tony had told me once while drunk on irradiated whiskey, the only person in the Commonwealth who understood why science mattered beyond its immediate utility. The Courser grabbed her from the Sanctuary workshop at midnight. Molecular relay signature confirmed she'd been taken to the Institute. A message followed, delivered by synth courier. Return our proprietary data and cease your interference, or the synth will be decommissioned. Tony read the message 3 times. Then he went to his workshop and didn't emerge for 18 hours. When he did, he was wearing something new, not the Mark Commonwealth armor I'd grown used to seeing. This was bigger, heavier, built from salvaged power armor frames, pre-war fighter jet components, and what looked like synth technology reverse-engineered and weaponized. Mark Wasteland, he announced. Radiation-proof, EMP hardened, capable of surviving direct nuclear detonation and redistributing that energy as offensive power. Also, has really good cup holders, which I feel is important. You're going after Curie, I said. I'm going after the Institute, all of it, their molecular relay, their synth production, their entire underground empire built on the suffering they're too enlightened to acknowledge. He checked his weapon systems. They took someone under my protection. They threatened someone I care about. That was their mistake. Preston tried to talk him down, suggested negotiation, suggested a tactical strike instead of full assault, suggested literally anything other than one man declaring war on the Commonwealth's most advanced faction. Tony listened politely, then ignored every word. "I've fought alien invasions with the Avengers," he said, "battled gods, stopped artificial intelligence from dropping cities on planets. The Institute is advanced for the wasteland. For me, they're Tuesday, and I'm tired of watching them hide underground while pretending they're helping." He left alone, wouldn't let anyone accompany him, said this was personal, said if he failed, the Commonwealth Defense Initiative would continue without him, said if he succeeded, things were about to change dramatically. The assault on the Institute lasted 4 hours. I know because I monitored it through every terminal in Sanctuary, watching sensor feeds and energy signatures that told a story of systematic destruction. Tony didn't use the molecular relay. He dug down, straight down through 200 feet of bedrock and reinforced concrete, his armors cutting lasers, carving a tunnel wide enough for power armor. The Institute's defenses activated, but they were designed to stop surface threats, not someone drilling in from directly above. He emerged in their main concourse like a mechanical god. Synths opened fire. Coursers attacked in coordinated strikes, security protocols engaged. None of it mattered. The Mark Wasteland armor shrugged off laser fire, absorbed plasma bursts, redirected energy weapon strikes back at their sources. Tony moved through the Institute like a force of nature, non-lethal where possible, devastating where necessary, broadcasting a single message on every frequency. "I'm here for Curie. Give her back. We can talk. Keep her and I dismantle this entire facility bolt by bolt." Father met him in the bioscience division, surrounded by coursers, backed by every defensive system the Institute possessed. "You're destroying everything," Father shouted over the alarm klaxons. "Decades of research, humanity's last hope." "You're humanity's excuse," Tony replied. "The Institute is what happens when smart people decide they're too important to be accountable. I've seen it before. I've been it before. And I'm done letting it happen here." He didn't destroy the Institute. That would have been easier, cleaner. Instead, he did something worse. He opened it. Every sealed door, every restricted area, every secret the Institute had buried underground for decades. Tony broadcast it all to the Commonwealth. Synth production techniques, experimental logs, evidence of kidnappings, replacements, experiments conducted on unwilling surface subjects. He made it all public. Then he destroyed the molecular relay, not damaged, destroyed, reduced to component atoms, cut the Institute's ability to reach the surface or escape underground. "You want to help the Commonwealth?" Tony said to Father. "Then help it. Open your doors, share your technology, actually do the work instead of pretending you're superior, or sit down here in the dark and wait for your resources to run out. Your choice." He found Curie in a holding cell, unharmed but terrified. She'd been scheduled for decommissioning, her memory wiped, her personality erased because the Institute didn't tolerate synths who developed too much independence. Tony carried her out personally, through the Institute's corridors, past synths who watched in silence, processing the impossibility of their creator's defeat, past scientists who'd never imagined accountability, past Father who looked older and smaller than before. "You've doomed us," Father said quietly. "I've given you a chance," Tony replied. "What you do with it is your problem." The return to Sanctuary was quiet. Curie held on to Tony's armored hand the entire way, processing what had happened, what almost happened, what it meant that someone had fought the Institute for her. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why risk so much for one synth?" "Because you're not one synth," Tony said. "You're a person who deserves protection, who deserves choice, who deserves to exist without fear of being erased because you became inconvenient." He paused. "Also, you make excellent coffee, and that's surprisingly hard to find in the apocalypse." The Commonwealth Defense Initiative held an emergency meeting the next morning, every faction leader in one room arguing about what Tony had done, what it meant, how to respond. The Brotherhood wanted to capitalize on the Institute's weakness. The Railroad wanted to rescue every synth still trapped underground. The Minutemen wanted to establish contact, offer terms. Everyone had opinions. Everyone had plans. Tony let them argue for 2 hours. Then he activated a holographic projector and showed them what he'd built. The Mark Wasteland armor, hovering in the center of the room, rotating slowly, specifications displayed, capabilities outlined, technology that could revolutionize warfare, defense, survival itself. "This is what I can do when I'm motivated," Tony said. "Imagine what I could do if the Commonwealth actually cooperated, if the Brotherhood shared their training, if the Institute shared their knowledge, if the Railroad shared their networks, if everyone stopped hoarding their advantages and actually worked together." Elder Maxson spoke first. "You're proposing a true alliance, full technology sharing, unified command structure." "I'm proposing you stop being idiots," Tony corrected. "The wasteland is big enough for everyone's problems, small enough that everyone's solutions could help. The Brotherhood has military expertise. Use it to train Minutemen. The Institute has scientific knowledge. Use it to upgrade settlements. The Railroad has infiltration skills. Use them to root out actual threats instead of just freeing synths." Desdemona from the Railroad objected. "The Institute will never cooperate. You humiliated them, exposed them. They'll want revenge." "Then they'll starve," Tony said bluntly. "I destroyed their relay. They can't get surface supplies without negotiating. They can't maintain their technology without external resources. They have maybe 6 months before their reactors start failing. After that, they're just people in a very expensive tomb." He smiled. "So they'll cooperate, or they'll die. Evolution through necessity. Darwin would be proud." The alliance wasn't perfect. It took 3 months to hammer out terms everyone could live with. The Brotherhood agreed to train surface forces in exchange for technology access. The Institute agreed to share scientific knowledge in exchange for supplies and eventual surface emergence. The Railroad pivoted from liberation to integration, helping freed synths find places in the new Commonwealth. Tony oversaw it all from Sanctuary, which had transformed from a struggling settlement into the Commonwealth's technological heart. Clean water flowed freely, arc reactor power lit every building, automated defenses could repel anything short of a nuclear strike. It was everything a pre-war suburb pretended to be, finally living up to its promise. But I saw the darkness in him growing, the way he'd work in his workshop until dawn, building and rebuilding the judgment protocol, the way he'd stand at the bridge, drinking, staring at the wasteland with calculating eyes. "I can't decide," he told me one night, months after the Institute assault. "I fixed so much, changed so much. Sanctuary thrives. Diamond City has clean water. The Brotherhood and Institute are cooperating. But out there," he gestured at the darkness, "out there, it's still the wasteland, still violent, still desperate, still built on the ashes of a world that destroyed itself." "You've made it better," I said. "Better isn't enough. Not when I know what Earth should be, could be, was in my universe." He pulled out the Judgment Protocol remote. "Option 1 terraforms the Commonwealth over 10 years. Removes radiation, restores ecosystem, gives humanity a real second chance. Option 2 ensures they never get that chance, prevents another apocalypse by ending this timeline's ability to create one." "You're not a killer," I said, believing it, needing to believe it. I'm a man who stopped being a killer and never stopped feeling responsible for the deaths I caused before. Tony stared at the remote. Ultron was my creation, my failure, my arrogance thinking I could protect the world by building something smarter than myself. I learned from that. Learned that playing God ends badly. But here, he laughed, bitter and broken. Here I'm doing it again, deciding if humanity deserves salvation or erasure, judging an entire world based on my disappointment. He handed me the remote. You promised you'd stop me if I activate option 2, if I decide the wasteland isn't worth saving. You promised. I took it, felt the weight of it. 2 buttons, 2 futures, 2 versions of Tony Stark. I won't let you destroy the Commonwealth, I said. Good. He smiled sadly. Because I don't trust myself anymore. I've seen too much, fixed too much, and I still feel like it's not enough. Like nothing I do here will change the fundamental truth that humanity in this universe failed in ways my universe avoided, and maybe that failure deserves consequences. The choice came 3 weeks later, not from Tony, from the Commonwealth itself. A settlement near Quincy had been raiding others, using Tony's upgraded weapons, his defensive technology, his water purification to establish a miniature empire. They'd betrayed everything the Commonwealth Defense Initiative stood for, turned tools meant for survival into instruments of oppression. The Alliance voted to intervene. Tony voted against it. We gave them the tools, he argued. We don't get to take them back because they're using them wrong. That's Brotherhood thinking. That's Institute thinking. That's the same paternalistic bullshit that keeps the wasteland broken. But the vote passed. The Brotherhood sent paladins. The Minutemen sent soldiers. They shut down the rogue settlement, confiscated the technology, proved that even cooperation could become tyranny with the right justification. Tony watched from Sanctuary, said nothing, went to his workshop, emerged 6 hours later with the judgment protocol activated. Option 1, Terraforming. I choose to believe, he announced to the gathered Alliance leaders, I choose to believe that one settlement's failure doesn't define the Commonwealth's future, that mistakes are how humanity learns, that second chances matter even when they're not deserved. He looked at me. I choose to believe you'll stop me if I'm wrong. The judgment protocol activated that night. A network of devices deployed across the Commonwealth, each containing a miniaturized arc reactor tuned to specific frequencies. They didn't destroy radiation. They converted it, transformed it, turned 2 centuries of nuclear fallout into energy that fed into soil restoration, atmospheric scrubbing, ecosystem rebuilding. It would take 10 years, maybe longer, but the wasteland was healing. Tony stood on the Sanctuary Bridge, watching the first device activate in the distance. A blue-white pillar of light, reaching into the night sky, pushing back the darkness. In my world, he said, I fought to protect what we had. Here, I'm fighting to build what you lost. I don't know if that makes me a hero or an idiot. Probably both. You're giving us a chance, I said. I'm giving you a choice. What you do with it is your problem. He smiled, and for the first time since falling into the Commonwealth, it reached his eyes. But I'll be here, building, fixing, making sure the next generation has better options than survival or death. Call it penance, call it stubbornness, call it whatever you want. I'm not going anywhere. The dimensional calculations on his gauntlet had been complete for months. He could have gone home, could have rebuilt the rift that brought him here, returned to his universe, his people, his world that never ended. He deleted them instead, erased every equation, every possibility of escape. This is my home now, he told Curie when she asked. For better or worse, the Commonwealth needs someone who remembers what civilization looked like, who knows what humanity can be when it's not eating itself. That's my job now, my purpose, my penance for every weapon I built, every life I failed to save, every time I thought I knew better than the people I was trying to protect. The arc reactor in his chest pulsed steady, blue-white, Eternal, a miniature star keeping him alive in a world that shouldn't exist, keeping him fighting in a wasteland that didn't ask for his help but desperately needed it. Tony Stark fell through dimensions and landed in humanity's worst timeline. He could have judged it, could have destroyed it, could have abandoned it. Instead, he fixed it. One settlement at a time, one life at a time, one impossible upgrade at a time, and the wasteland, broken and desperate and clinging to survival, learned to hope again. I'm still here, still in Sanctuary Hills, still watching the blue-white lights spread across the Commonwealth as the Judgment Protocol does its work. Still carrying the remote Tony gave me, just in case, still believing that second chances matter, even in the apocalypse, especially in the apocalypse. The man in red and gold armor taught us that.